Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. This is episode 399.
Hey, hello, it sounds like a sale price or something like that.
Are we on sale?
Hey, the
I thought
Family
we were
Gamers
still
are on
free.
sale. Who are we? As always, I'm your host, Andrew, and I am joined by my lovely and amazing wife, who is not on sale, Anitra.
That's me.
We are the Family Gamers, excited to bring another episode of the show to you. We've had this kind of two-parter. We did the first part a couple of weeks ago on Room to Grow with classic abstract games. This week we're going to do modern abstract games with a great amount of negotiation and deliberation between the two of us, I think. Because there's so many amazing games out there. But of course, that is not how we start these shows. Typically, we usually talk about some facts and a sponsor message and some other stuff. We've got a pretty full show this week, actually.
Yeah, we do. So let's get started. Give me a fact.
Yeah, so Grizzly 399. Have you ever heard of Grizzly 399?
No.
Okay, so you can go to 399film.com to see the film that was actually made about this grizzly bear. This is a grizzly bear that apparently was well known, fairly famous, I guess, in the Tetons area of the United States. So here's what it kind of says. Here's the write-up. 399 follows the life of the most famous bear in the world. I thought that was Cocaine Bear, but, whatever. Grizzly 399, as she attempts to raise an unusually large litter of 4 cubs to adulthood. Amidst a warming climate, human encroachment, and the looming threat of losing protected status under the Endangered Species Act, a mother bear makes increasingly unexpected and consequential choices to protect her family. On Tuesday, October 22nd, I don't know what year, but it just says October 22nd, Grizzly 399 was struck and killed by a vehicle on the roadside south of Jackson, Wyoming. The filmmaking team is saddened by this sudden loss, and our hearts are with our friends and collaborators in Jackson and beyond. We are grateful to be part of sharing 399's incredible life through our films 399, Queen of the Tetons, and PBS Nature, Grizzly 399, Queen of the Tetons. We hope her legacy continues to inspire a respect for her species and our shared habitat. So, I don't know. I mean, grizzly bears are cool and, scary and just kind of, amazing creatures. I didn't mention this to you. I saw a bear yesterday while driving. Which is kind of neat. Yeah, not a grizzly bear, just a black bear. But anyway, so that's the fact for $3.99. 399film.com.
Cool. Well, I have a message from our sponsor. How do you dig out of debt? The honest answer is slowly and painfully. There is no quick magic solution, and anyone who says otherwise is selling something. There are companies out there who offer to lower your payments and help you settle your debts. But beware. What most of these companies do is have you start making your reduced monthly payment to them, but they don't turn around and pay your debts. Instead, they wait. After a few months of your bills going unpaid, you get a call from a collections agent, and you're supposed to tell them to talk to your settlement company. The two companies then haggle over how much of your debt will be repaid, if any, and if you're working with a reputable company, they get the debt settled and written off, so collectors don't keep coming around. From that point, which sometimes takes a year or two, you will have to deal with 7 years of ruined credit, which makes this only slightly better than going through bankruptcy. Another better option, if you can manage it, is to use a credit counselor. All the things the debt settlement company did are things that you can do. So the credit counselor walks you through those steps, like calling your creditors to negotiate a payoff plan with lower payments. Credit counselors often cost around $50 a month, but the process they walk you through to pay off your debts builds your credit throughout the process. So when you come out the other side, you have a good credit score. First Move Financial is not a credit counseling company, but they'd be happy to spend a few minutes talking to you to help you find a reputable credit counselor. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers to set up a quick chat and start taking steps to dig out of debt today.
All right. Thanks so much to First Move Financial for being our partner for 275 episodes or some amazingly crazy large amount. They're really an amazing team. They do amazing stuff, and we are very, very thankful for their support. Anitra, let's talk about some games that we've been playing. We have been playing some new and interesting and different stuff lately, I think.
A few things, yeah.
Some older classics as well.
Do you want to start with new or do you want to start with old? Because I've got one of each.
Well, I mean, we played Castles of Burgundy. So both of us have played Castles of Burgundy before. I think you had said that you had only ever played it on Board Game Arena.
Yeah.
I only played it not on Board Game Arena. So, hey, we played Castles of Burgundy, and I think I came in 3rd place out of 4 or something like that.
I was only very slightly ahead of you. So it's an enjoyable enough game. it definitely shows its age a bit in how much you need to set up and how much isn't really explained and done through symbology and things like that. It's a good game, but it's not a game I'm gonna jump excitedly to play. I'd be like, okay, sure, fine.
All right, well, did you feel differently about when we played Dice Throne?
So this is Marvel Dice Throne X-Men.
Yes.
I definitely enjoyed it. There are a lot of new powers to explore. I don't think Dice Throne is ever going to be my favorite either. There's something about that style of play that just feels too random.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. But
what you're trying to do.
Of course, the game is based around rolling dice. They are chance cubes. Of course, it's random. You kind of have to accept that going in.
I mean, I know that. I'm not against it, but it's not my favorite kind of game. It's okay. I like it. I am happy.
Lorcana where you can paste me every time we play?
I mean, not that either. Honestly, I prefer Unmatched or Compile.
Sure.
Which still have a lot of luck, but it's the luck of card draws mostly.
Yeah, it's a luck that you can mitigate in a lot of different ways a little bit more easily than what you can do in Dice Throne. Although I will say, so we played the Lovers Duel. It was Gambit and Rogue.
We did.
Yeah. So with the Marvel Dice Throne X-Men stuff, they're continuing to do different things for special powers.
Yep.
And Gambit has, I don't remember what they're called. They're not ace, maybe they are ace cards.
You've got 4 aces out in front of you.
Yeah, so they are ace cards. And there's obviously one for each suit. And you like charge them up. And then when they're charged up, so you charge them up by, various attacks will allow you to do some charging up of, your ace cards. You can spend an ace card and it does some kind of modifier like execute some attack twice, or you can add 2 unblockable damage, or, you can refresh some of your ace cards because when you fire off an ace card, it gets turned over, it's exhausted until you have some way to refresh it. So that's kind of his special thing that he does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rogue special stuff is mostly, it's that back and forth of being able to occasionally absorb power from someone else, which mostly shows up in like her defense. Oh, I'm actually going to reflect this damage back at you.
Sure.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
There are also powers related to her being able to fly and, all that kind of stuff. It certainly felt thematic in the moment, but none of it stuck out to me enough to be able to say now, because it was like a week and change ago we played. I don't remember what any of the special powers were. They felt thematic, but none of them were like, wow, this is awesome.
Okay. I mean, I understand that. I really liked it. I felt like Gambit's powers were very thematic, right?
Yes.
I think, there's 6 more characters that we have to play with. These are titles that we got in for review, so I'm looking forward to playing more of that. I like being reminded that we have the Dice Throne to play, and then sitting down and doing some more 2-player dueling, especially now that we've released the Lorcana review. I don't have to get whooped all the time. I'm not against playing the game, but, every once in a while I like to win something.
Well, speaking of whooping, we played some more Jekyll versus Hyde.
See, I thought you were going to be like nice about this and be like, speaking of whooping, here's a game that you whooped me in. Nope. Sorry.
Nope. Still really love this game. And honestly, it seemed like you had a great time with this too. It was a really tight back and forth where you picked to be Hyde. And multiple times I thought for sure you were going to lock it up. And then I was able to
wriggle out of it.
I was able to use the special powers in the game,
out of it.
The potion powers in the game.
Wriggle out of it.
To turn the tide.
To wriggle out of it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. We did play Compile, and I whooped you at Compile.
You did whoop me at Compile.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
I'm still really, really loving that one too. The synergies there between the cards, and sometimes the cards that you think are going to be really synergistic and just aren't.
Yeah. There was an expansion that was released, like Aux 1 or Aux 2.
Yes, Aux 1.
That. So we picked those up as well. I mean, it's just a ball of fun. I just really like it. I love the fit and finish of the cards. They smell good. Like everything about this. They're not scented. I don't know. It's like the new car smell kind of thing.
I love that the Aux 1 expansion is love, hate, and apathy.
Well, is it only those 3?
Yes.
I thought there was more. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Really, really big fans of Compile. Really everything about that game. I love bringing it places. It's a tiny little box. It's just a great fun.
We also played some more Ultimatch on our breakfast dates.
Yeah, Ultimate Match as a 2-player game is really interesting because
really hard.
It's harder, and it's definitely there's a bit more luck involved, right? Because there's just less cards out and available, so there's less jockeying, for the best things to do. We played 2 games and had like 1 Ultimate Match between both games between the 2 of us. It was really odd.
We got a couple of Ultimate Matches in the second game, but it was just barely enough to get us over the hump and barely beat the game with like 1 card remaining in one person's hand.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Solo Ultimate Match is very hard, but you have more cards to work with. I think 2-player Ultimate Match is probably the hardest version of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that said, I like how simple and quick it is to get into, and I like that feeling of working together to make it work.
I have Cabanga on the list as well, and then a little bit more Belratti. So that's going to be the Snap review for this week's episode. Wanted to play a little bit more Belratti just to make sure that we got that Snap out last week.
Yep.
Interesting game of like weird kind of deduction blended with a bunch of different other games, I guess.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I think I like Caution Signs better in terms of doing that. Everybody does a bunch of stuff, and then you mix a bunch of cards together and try to figure out what belongs and what doesn't. I definitely like Caution Signs better.
There's so much in that kind of area, right? You got the Caution Signs and the So Clover and Wavelength and Just One, and then you can kind of go in the other direction, and you've got things like Dixit and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty crowded space, and I didn't not like Belratti. Like, I thought it was fine, but it didn't really have anything necessarily that differentiated itself to the point where it was something that, I felt was a really, really strong offering.
I think the biggest thing that differentiates Belratti in this category of stuff is that it is just a card game, and it is very, very portable. Like, it's quick to get started because it is just a deck of cards and then a much smaller group of roll cards. And that's basically all you've got. And you just get started right away as soon as everybody has a hand of cards. That's the biggest thing in its favor. As games go, it's fine.
Sure. Okay.
And at Piano Lessons, I played some more Grove. I really, really enjoy Grove. I enjoy it probably more than I should, but every time I pull it out, if it's been a couple months, it still feels fresh and new, and I love that a game takes me like 10 minutes.
Well, this leads to a really good question, because I had started playing some solo Hutan, and the first thing that I said when I played this was, hey, Anitra, you need to try this. It's going to remind you of Grove and Forage.
And it does.
So now that you've gone back and played Grove after playing Hutan, how do you feel about both of them?
I like them both. Hutan is just a lot to get set up and get started with.
Right.
But I would probably still play Hutan solo if I know I'm going to have half an hour, 45 minutes at home. Grove is really portable and only takes 10 minutes.
Sure.
So that's great for throwing in my purse and then playing at, Piano Lessons or whatever.
Okay. All right. I am looking forward to playing that game more. I feel very much like that is a game that I just need to understand a little bit better.
Yeah, I can see that. I think a few more plays and we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have anything else? I don't have anything else on my list.
That's pretty much it. I played some Mojo, and that's the only other game I got.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let us welcome our new community member. That seems like a thing we should do. How about that?
All right. Sounds like a plan.
So let's jump over to the Facebook and welcome Rolinda.
Welcome, Sam.
Hey, welcome to Vincent.
Welcome to Mads.
Welcome to Chic.
Welcome to Willie.
And welcome to John. If you are already in the Facebook community, head over, ask them what kinds of games they're playing. And if you're not a member of the Family Gamers community, well, you should join. And there's lots of reasons why. But one of them is because we asked you a Backtalk question. 2 weeks ago, we asked about classic abstract games and what your favorite classic abstract game was. So, Anitra.
Yes.
I know you go to the Discords and I go to the Facebooks.
Sure.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Go ahead.
Peter says, overall, he's not a huge abstract player. Like, he'll play Quirkle, he'll play Onitama, but chess, checkers, Go, backgammon, etc. are not his favorites. He says, my wife gave up playing Pente with me after she never won a game. She'll play it with the kids, but not with me.
And this is why I don't play Lorcana anymore. All right, on Facebook, Colleen Slaby says, Anitra, when you were asking the Backtalk question on the podcast, I said out loud to myself, Mancala, just before you said it.
Woohoo!
I first learned it as a kid while on a vacation with family friends in a house in Vermont. My first set had clear, flat, colorful gemstones. After that vacation, I taught it to my neighbor across the street. He was my first board game buddy. He taught me the Omega Virus. Did you ever play Omega Virus?
I did not.
Well, Colleen, if you did not know, Restoration Games has already announced that they are going to be remaking the Omega Virus.
Oh,
so,
great. Adrian says, we played the usual as kids. My dad was big into chess, so we played with chess clocks sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I liked Chinese checkers the best. Another game she mentions is Twixt, where you place pegs and then try to connect the pegs with the goal of trying to get from one side of the board across to the other side of the board, while your opponent is trying to do it perpendicular to you. This sounds a little bit like a Quoridor or a Troke, which is one of my childhood favorites. It apparently was part of the 3M games series from the 60s or 70s. So very similar to my game Troke then.
Yeah. All right, well, Chinese checkers is playing a big role here. Rick White, I played Chinese checkers like it was my job as a kid.
Good job, Rick.
Absolutely.
Ken says Chinese checkers was the go-to in our house. Chess was a staple, but we didn't play a ton of it.
All right, Courtney White says backgammon was a longtime favorite. Such a satisfying experience with a nice amount of luck due to dice rolling. I know we talked about that on the show.
We did.
I also love Pente, a game that my husband had growing up. Not my husband, Courtney's husband. His family copy only allows for 2 players, but we recently found a deluxe edition that plays up to 4, which makes it so tricky. Pente is similar to Cinco Linko, but played on a grid, and there are 2 possible win conditions: play 5 stones in a row or capture 5 pairs of your opponent's stones. Anitra, a week ago you said you found a nice Mancala board at an antique store. Did you go back to that antique store?
I have not gone back to the antique store yet. I hope to this week.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to put it in the budget.
It's going to be like $5. That's the amazing part.
$5 in the budget.
Yes. I think my game budget can handle that.
I think it can. Anything else on Discord?
That's it.
All right.
You know what else we've got for our community?
What's that?
A giveaway. We are almost at episode 400, at which point we will announce winners for these giveaways. So as of the day this podcast comes out, you've got just under 2 weeks left, 12 or 13 days left, when you can enter the giveaway for Avant Card and the giveaway for Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang's Destiny.
Get them while they're hot. Both of these games are pretty hot. I actually like them a lot.
They're pretty hot.
Yeah. So go get those games.
We've got a For Science, but I think maybe we're going to keep that for the second half of the show.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break now? And then when we come back, we'll tee it up with a For Science.
All right.
Then we'll get into our topic. How does that sound?
That sounds like an excellent plan.
All right. We'll be right back, everybody.
What makes good art? Is it entirely subjective? Or are there objective standards for beauty and worth?
You are going way too deep into this. This week, all we need to know is what paintings fit a theme and what ones don't.
Oh, is that all?
This is a snap review for Belratti.
Belratti is a cooperative deduction game for 3 to 7 players ages 8 and up, designed by Michael Loth. This version is published by Cosmos, and the box says it takes about 25 minutes to play.
So if this game is all about art, what is the art like in this game?
The game is pretty much all cards. The character cards show anthropomorphic animals. There's Dr. Cat, Painter Owl, and Belratti the Forger. These have full background art to help set the scene of a studio and an art museum.
The 192 painting cards are the bulk of the game. The card backs look like the back of a canvas, and the front of each shows a single item in great detail.
Anything from a chef's hat to a snow globe.
These items have no context. It's just one thing on an otherwise blank canvas.
There are a few cardboard joker tiles, too. These show either the owl or the cat, with an icon representing some special action.
So that's it. That's the art. What are the mechanics of Belratti? How do we actually play this game?
The whole group is going to try to group painting cards and avoid the forgeries that are introduced by Belratti.
Start by distributing a number of painting cards to each player to have in their hand. Then pass out character cards. Roughly half the group should get Dr. Cat, the museum director, and the other half gets Owl, the painter. You'll pass these to the left after each round, so players should get a chance to be both characters several times.
At the beginning of a round, The museum directors pull the top 2 cards from the deck. These will be the themes for the art show. They discuss and determine how many cards they want the painters to contribute to the show. This has to be a number between 3 and 7.
Then, the painters will select which of their cards they want to contribute. They're not allowed to look at each other's hands or give specific information about their cards, but they can say things like, oh, I have a picture that fits perfectly, and I could contribute another one that's just okay. Or they could say things like, I got nothing.
As a painter contributes a face-down card, they should decide in their head which of the 2 themes to assign it to. But they can't tell anyone yet. Together, the painters contribute the required number of cards, all face down.
Before moving on to the next phase, Belratti contributes forgeries to try to smuggle them into the museum. Draw 4 cards from the deck and shuffle them together with the painters' contributions.
Now the museum directors flip over the shuffled paintings and try to determine which cards belong with which of the 2 themes. They are allowed to talk about possible motivations, or why an object fits, or why it might be a forgery, but the painters are not allowed to participate or give hints.
Once the museum director team has finalized their decisions, the painters take turns showing which paintings are theirs.
For every painting that was placed in the correct theme, the whole team is going to get a point. Set these cards aside to count them as points at the end of the game. Paintings that the directors assign to the wrong theme are nothing. Discard those.
And sadly, if any of the forged paintings got assigned to a theme, those are points to Belratti. If he has 6 or more cards in his pile, the game is over.
Otherwise, when the round is over, put the themes on the discard pile and pass the character cards. Play another round and see how many paintings you can collect before Belratti sneaks too many forgeries in.
There is one more element to the game, jokers. These are special powers that the painters or the museum directors can use to make a round slightly easier. You flip them face down after using them to show they can't be used again.
It is possible to reactivate a joker, but only if you have a perfect round where none of Belratti's forgeries were selected and all of the paintings were put into the right categories. So that's Belratti. What did we expect from this game?
Well, when I first saw this, I was thinking about games like Dixit with art following themes. It's all about art, and someone trying to maybe guess how they were all related. I was kind of right, but not really.
I was not at all excited for Belratti. I don't know what it was about this game, but I just wasn't looking forward to doing deduction and trying to guess what fits and what doesn't with themes that nobody knew ahead of time.
But there were some surprises. What surprised you about it?
Well, we had a great time with Belratti once we figured out the roles of painter and museum director. I particularly loved when people on the director team would talk through their reasoning of why an object belonged in one category or the other and had arguments about it. Honestly, that made it feel a lot like Similo, which is a simpler cooperative deduction game that we love.
It's interesting that this game feels like Similo to you because for me, this game screams cooperative deduction. We reviewed Caution Signs last week, and this game feels incredibly similar. It also takes elements from games like So Clover for all of the same reasons. I love that here. You're kind of dividing the group in half every round, but everyone is still working towards the same goal. I also love how the teams are changing all the time with shifting roles, kind of like the older game Concept.
Yeah. The shifting roles are especially good because the roles feel a little lopsided. The painters are pretty much all working individually since they're not allowed to discuss anything, while the museum directors work as a team and only make decisions together. When you're on the painter team, you're just as unsure as the directors are about which painting goes where if it's not yours. I also think we wouldn't really want to play this game with just 3 players. When you do that, you only have a single painter character, and they have an enormous hand of cards. While that might feel more fair than trying to agree with a team of people whose cards you can't see and can't have any information about, it also puts a ton of pressure on the painter each round, and on the directors to get into that one painter's head and understand their vision for the 2 themes.
Okay, so that was a lot. So based on that, do we recommend Belratti?
I think we tentatively recommend it. It's a cooperative game that really depends on getting on the same wavelength as your fellow players, and that can be polarizing. But if you've enjoyed games like Similo or Wavelength or The Game, Belratti will be a fun way to mix up your game night with at least 4 players.
We're going to give Belratti 3.5 paintings out of 5.
And that's Belratti
In a snap.
And we're back.
All right, so it is time for one of our Forest Sciences. This one, I think we've been sitting on this one for like a week and a half.
A weekish. This is the Reese's PB&J Big Cup.
Yeah, so I have to, first of all, I think it's well established that we like Reese's in this family. And
You know.
I'm like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich guy. Like, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Like, I like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I like peanut butter and fluff sandwich. Sometimes I have a peanut butter and fluff and jelly sandwich. Like, I'm all in on the peanut butter, and I like jelly. And when I saw these, I was in the middle of spending $5,000 fixing our car, which was less awesome. But I figured surely I could spring for this cool for science thing I found in this random gas station.
I mean, fair.
I bought 2 of them. There is the King Cup strawberry PB&J, which you have.
Yeah, I have the strawberry.
And I have the grape.
The grape. But they are both the PB&J Big Cup. I will say the picture on the packaging does not look particularly appetizing because it's a blob of jelly and a blob of peanut butter on top of a Reese's. But I am willing to give this a shot.
Anyway, so yeah, it's been a week and a half. They've been sitting there, and I've been like, yeah, I would like a Reese's peanut butter cup right now. And I'm like, but I can't eat these because these are special ones. So I'm excited to eat this right now.
I'm going to say before we actually eat them.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me.
I know. You cut them in half, and
I did.
there is a big peanut butter presence, and then this thin little strip of jelly separated from the peanut butter with chocolate.
Yeah, so you took a picture of this. Are you going to try to put the picture
I'm
in the
going
show
to
notes?
try to, if the picture turns out okay, I'm going to put it on the interwebs.
I mean, I have to think that they did this based on what they found like the right balance of jelly and peanut butter to be.
Well, and you want it to still taste like a Reese's, mostly, right? So a little bit of jelly.
I guess, sure.
Yeah.
But I'm ready.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, finally.
Ooh. Okay.
Uh-oh.
It is definitely a Reese's plus fruit flavor.
Yep.
I don't know about the grape, but the strawberry is incredibly strong. So I see why it's this like hair thin layer.
Mm-hmm.
How about yours?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, it's going to sound silly for me to say this out loud, but I'm going to do it anyway. It is a much more processed grape flavor.
It just sounds kind of funny, but
I'm reminded now, one of the things that makes jelly as opposed to preserves is that there's way more like sugar and pectin in it.
yeah, I suppose. I mean, I usually have raspberry or strawberry jelly, which can definitely stand up on its own, but I'm taking little bites of this to really get the flavor out. And this isn't jelly per se. It's more like the kind of stuff that goes into a jelly candy.
Agree. Totally agree with you. I mean, it has the consistency of like a thicker jelly. It's not like a hard candy consistency or anything.
Right.
Like it's almost like a jelly paste kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with, I appreciate what they're going for here, but I would rather have Reese's, just a straight up Reese's on this one.
Yeah, I would not get this one again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not awful.
It's overly sweet.
Yeah, and I mean it's not the really pleasing Concord grape that I want it to be. Which I guess I should have expected that, but that's okay.
Well, and for me, the strawberry one, it does taste like strawberry jelly. Like the fruitiness is the right amount of fruity, but it's too sweet for what it is.
Yeah, I mean what you're calling too sweet is probably what I'm calling this kind of over processing. Like it's not a sweetness sensation that I'm not loving here, but it's the grape candy flavor as opposed to the grape flavor, right?
That's a good way to put it. This is like a strawberry candy.
Yeah, and it is, like I said, a little bit thicker than what I would actually expect a jelly to be. So anyway, there you go. I think we both agree. We technically did not have the same thing, but I think close enough. I tried to play to each of our preferences.
I mean, yeah, I would feel, I'm sure, even worse about the grape because I'm just not a grape jelly fan.
Meanwhile, I am a grape jelly only person. So, I guess opposites attract or something.
Or something.
All right. Anyway, so that is our little Force Science. I do think we're going to try to do a Force Science on episode 400 as well. We have something that we've been we just haven't gotten to yet.
We've been waiting on it for a while.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be pulling that one out for the great episode 400. But before we get to episode 400, we do have a topic to discuss.
Yeah. So this is going to be part 2 of the Room to Grow abstract games.
Mm-hmm.
As we mentioned last week, our goal with the whole Room to Grow series is to bring your kids or your family through a series of games that grow in complexity. We aim for a beginner game, an intermediate game, an advanced game, and kind of group them all around a mechanic or a theme to offer a plan for growth so players can get comfortable with a mechanic, get comfortable with the idea of doing things a certain way, and then maybe move on to something a little bit more complicated later on.
And, this time, like we said, we're talking about abstract games. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you would define an abstract game?
So last time we talked about abstract strategy games specifically. So that's open information, basically no luck. We're fudging that a little bit this time. Still open information in any given round and very little luck, but some luck because it can make games more fun.
With the definition of abstract, you fall a little bit harder on the no luck side than I do. We mentioned backgammon on the top half of the show. I mean, that is a game that is run by dice, and dice are by definition chance cubes. So I don't feel like, I know that there are kind of the super classics like the Go's and the chesses of the world that don't have any luck in them, but I don't necessarily think that an abstract game has to eliminate luck as a viable element of the game. I don't feel that way at all. And so I don't feel like our first option here, which has a little bit of dexterity-based luck, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I don't think that breaks any rules that do or do not exist about abstract games.
Yeah, I think what I'm going for, trying to codify this a little bit more, is that the luck isn't turn after turn after turn. With these games, the luck that's involved only comes in periodically, so you have a little bit more chance to predict what's going to happen between your turn and your next turn.
I'm just not...
You're not buying that. I get it.
I'm not tracking with you on this one. I think that, in a game like backgammon, you have a sense of what numbers tend to come up because you can combine numbers together. And so you play in a defensive way to accommodate for situations where those numbers might come up for your opponent. And so you don't want to expose yourself. And I think that's all part of the strategy of the game, is knowing that there is a chance that certain things may or may not happen.
Sure. I'm with you, and I'm not saying those are bad games. I'm just trying to winnow this down. I think...
I know. I hear what you're saying. I just you seem to be very anti-luck on the abstract game thing. It just feels that way. So
I think not relying very much on luck to drive the game forward, I think, is part of what I'm looking at here, that player choices matter more than luck.
Sure. I'm aligned with you on that statement that you just made. Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay.
And in that way, our first selection here toes that line a little bit.
It does kind of toe that line. Yes. So our selection as a beginner recommendation for getting into these kind of abstract strategy games of the modern era is Drop It. This has been a favorite game of ours since we first saw it in 2018.
And one of the things that, for me, when we talk about Drop It as an abstract game, like, obviously it doesn't have a theme, right? There's no...
Yeah, it is obviously an abstract game.
Or any of that stuff, right? Like, in that way, it is absolutely an abstract game. And fundamentally, there is strategy in this game. You don't want like shapes to touch. You don't want like colors to touch. In stuff like that, like, those are very simple decisions that impact your execution. And that is kind of a core tenet of an abstract game.
Yeah. It's also why we like this as a beginner game, because even little kids can generally understand this. You only get points if your shape when it lands is not touching the same shape and is not touching the same color. That is simple enough that most 4 and 5-year-olds can understand it, even if they struggle with the actual math involved of how many points did I get this turn. The on-off of did I get points, did I not get points is very clear.
Yep, absolutely. And in that way, I completely agree with you. And it's interesting and it's fun. And people have asked us many, many times on this show, in the Facebook community, whatever, how do I get my kids to like games? And our answer always is you don't, right? You just expose them to stuff, and if they're going to like it, they're going to like it. And Drop It is a great example / opportunity of a game that has an incredible table presence that invariably people, especially kids, are going to see it and say, oh, I want to play with that. I want to put my hands on this thing. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. I want to experience the rush of watching my piece fall and bounce around and all of that stuff, right? Like, it's a very tangible thing. And I know we're talking about abstract games, so using the word abstract when talking about non-abstract games is almost a little bit goofy, but with a lot of this stuff, like the non-abstractness of non-abstract games still exists in the minds of the gamers, right? Like, there's art and there's sometimes story and all of this stuff, but it still requires imagination, and it requires aligning action selection and area control and drafting and all this stuff with a story that is, kind of in the imagination of the players / written down on a piece of paper. And that's very often the thing that people that aren't gamers, that don't consider themselves gamers, are not really interested in doing, is kind of coalescing all of this discrete elements into something that becomes, air quote, a game. And then plus, having to think about strategy and all that stuff on top of it. Something like Drop It, none of those things exist, right? Like, with a lot of abstract games, there's strategy, right? And that's kind of the deep elegance of the Go's and the checkers and the chesses of the world, is that it's pure strategy. There's no baggage around any of those other things. But with Drop It, you don't even have to have some kind of deep lifetime to master kind of strategy to go along with the simplicity of all those other things that make abstract so great.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like you said, there is a little bit of luck here, but the little bit of luck, the great presentation, and the fact that there is no story to this game. Like, the best you could do is a, very kid-oriented, like, the shapes don't like the same shape. It's like magnets, like things don't want to be together.
Or something.
And that's about as much story as you can even put on this in any possible way.
Polygons from the sky.
And that's fine, because it makes the game, I guess, feel more pure, like almost like a Jenga or something like that, where it's, no, nothing else here matters. Pick your piece, do your thing, and that's it. You're done.
Sure.
Our next game actually does have a story if you want it to.
I mean, come on.
If you want it to.
It has a history. It doesn't really, what it does have is bright, colorful, tactile pieces that kids want to get their hands on.
Yeah, so our intermediate suggestion is Azul. In theory, the theme of Azul is that you are tiling a wall mural somewhere in Spain, I think.
I think it's Portugal.
Maybe it's Portugal. Yeah. I don't know. Azul is Spanish and Portuguese for blue, so who knows?
I'm pretty sure it's Portugal.
I don't know. You are probably right. But that's really as far as the theme goes. Now, that's enough that if somebody sinks their teeth into it, they can run with that theme. But most people are going to look at this and say, okay, pretty tiles. I need to put them down on my board and arrange them to get points. Azul is interesting in that the strategy can get quite complex, especially when you take into account the different ways you want to get points throughout the game. You are drafting tiles from a central area, and then you're putting them on your board, and different areas of your board require a different number of identical tiles to fill up in order to place one tile into the scoring area.
Yeah, look, I think Azul makes a lot of sense in this intermediate range for a lot of reasons. I think the game is either 8+ or maybe it's 10+, but I think 8+.
I think probably 8+.
It really strikes that nice balance between having a fair bit of strategy if you want to be a deep gamer, but the simplicity of, look, there's only one thing you do on your turn, is you choose some tiles.
There are two things you do on your turn, because you choose tiles and you choose where to put them.
They're two sides of the same coin.
Those are two discrete choices.
Sure, but you're always making them together.
You are always making those choices together, but as you get into the strategy, one affects the other and goes back and affects the first one. So they're tied together, but they're not so tightly tied that you only ever think about them together. There are definitely times you're like, oh, I just really don't want this other guy to get these pieces, and I'm going to take them. Where am I going to put them? I'll figure it out.
Okay, but we're talking about this in the context of the 8 to 10-year-old who's playing the game. I don't think 8 to 10-year-olds are hate drafting in Azul.
I don't know which 8 to 10-year-olds you're playing with.
All right. Well, the point is that the choices here are simple. Much like our classic abstract intermediate game checkers, the choices are very straightforward on what you want to do. Your goals are pretty straightforward. They're a little bit more complicated, but the game does introduce some modern elements, right? It has some set collection in it. It has open drafting in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have the opportunity to make a decision to become the first player, which is a more novel concept than anything in our classic abstracts.
Yes.
So, yeah, it definitely does have some strategic elements. It is definitely simple from a turn-taking perspective in terms of the types of things that you may want to do on your turn. It is absolutely beautiful, which is not necessarily a requirement of an abstract game, but I feel like a lot of abstracts have that beauty element to them, that kind of that natural elegance. And, Azul absolutely falls into that as well.
I think a beautiful game makes people more interested in playing it. And I mean, as people who have been reviewing board games for 10 years now, I've certainly played some fun, ugly games.
Oh, sure.
But
like any Euro?
But there are very few ugly games that could not be improved by making them pretty. Like, there is something about having really pretty pieces or a pretty layout that, while not necessary to the game, gets people more interested and invested in playing the game.
Sure. No, I think that's true. I'm 100% in alignment with you on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. And speaking of, a game that just looks absolutely fantastic, our advanced game is a game that, this is a coffee table game to the max.
Yeah. So our advanced suggestion is Shobu. Shobu is 4 wooden boards and 16 black stones and 16 white stones. It looks beautiful and elegant and will melt your brain.
So in Shobu, every time you move a piece, you have to move a corresponding piece on one of the other boards. So if you're moving a piece on the back boards, you have to move a corresponding piece on one of the front boards. Actually, let me amend that. So the first move has to be made on one of the player's home boards. So that's the 2 boards that are closest to them. The next move has to be made on one of the 2 boards that's the opposite color. So technically one of the home boards is the opposite color, and then one of the boards that is the opponent's home board is the opposite color. So the point here is every turn, players have to make 2 of the same move in the same direction in the same number of spaces, but they're on 2 different boards which might have different positions of all of the various stones. And the goal of the game is to capture or defeat or knock off or something like that 4 of your opponent's stones.
To knock off all 4 of their stones from any one of the boards.
Right.
So Shobu is different than the other games we've talked about in a lot of ways. One is that it, much like the classic abstracts, is more nakedly aggression. I need to knock your pieces off to win this game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But another thing that makes it different is that there's more rules overhead here. Like, it sounds simple, but actually looking at the boards and figuring out how to set up a passive move and an aggressive move, which is what they're called, takes a lot of brain power.
Yeah, much like a game like Go, this game develops much faster than Go does because it's much smaller of a board.
Yeah.
But in Go, there's a lot of kind of quick movement at the beginning of the game, and then as things start to tighten up, turns take longer and longer and longer because there's so many things that you need to look at. And that's largely true here as well.
My memory of Shobu is that the first couple of moves are pretty quick because there's just not much going on yet. The middle of the game, moves take a really long time to plan out because there's so many options. And then as pieces start to get knocked off the board, play actually speeds up again.
Only because there's more space.
More space and fewer things to move in that space.
Sure. Shobu is exactly what you expect an abstract game to be, a modern abstract game to be. Right?
Yes.
It is complicated. It is simple at the same time. Right?
Yep.
Your brain leaks out your ears when you're playing it. It's beautiful. literally, this is a game where if you could just find the right colored rocks, you could play it on the beach. You don't even have to bring it with you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that
totally.
level of simplicity. You don't need special stuff to play this game.
In that way, it's very much like all of the classic abstract games that we talked about. Like, just find appropriate pieces and you can start playing the game. That said, the game from Smirk and Laughter is gorgeous and not that expensive. So if a brain-burning abstract game that seems simple and has everything out there, you can't hide anything. If that sounds attractive to you, I highly, highly recommend trying this.
We gave Shobu a 9 out of 10 when we reviewed this game. It is excellent. It is very, very good. I really like Shobu as a game that is set up that you can come back to a couple of times, right, as you play it, because sometimes it's like you're thinking so hard it almost hurts.
Yeah.
Right? And it can be pretty intense to really buckle down and play an entire game of Shobu. So I almost like the idea of, we talk about our date breakfasts and stuff like that. Like if we ever found a way to have a date weekend where we like went away somewhere, like I wouldn't mind keeping this game on the table.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So those are our 3 games in Room to Grow. We start with Drop It for beginners. This is from Cosmos. Then we move to Azul from, is it Plan B Games? Is that the official publisher of Azul these days? I know it used to be. I don't know if they still are. And we ended up with Shobu as our advanced title, published by Smirk and Laughter.
But of course, we have some other abstracts.
Oh, yeah,
that
totally.
We have to talk about. These are all highly recommended, but just didn't quite fit into the Room to Grow that we were going for. I would feel horrible forever if I did not mention Cinco Linko. This is a tic-tac-toe type game where you want 5 in a row. We actually mentioned this during the Backtalk, that there are some other older games similar to this. I love Cinco Linko because, as previously mentioned, it is small, it is cheap, you can bring it anywhere, literally anywhere. I have played it on the beach, like literally on the sand on the beach. I've played it in the snow. I've played it on a picnic table. All you need is a vaguely flat-ish surface that nothing will slide off of. That's all you need to play Cinco Linko. And unlike most traditional tic-tac-toe, X in a row type games, Cinco Linko can accommodate up to 4 people, which gets it to start feeling much more tactical and interesting.
A couple other games that kind of came up in our list. One of them was Boop, which we've talked about a lot. It kind of sort of has a theme. Boop and Shobu have a lot in common with each other. Shobu came out first. I think that in terms of this kind of pure abstract look, Shobu is probably the better game for this particular category, but both of these games are excellent.
Yeah. Boop is slightly less brain-burny.
Yeah. We also picked Onitama as a game, which, Anisha, you said you didn't know if it qualified as a themeless abstract. I absolutely think it does. I mean, it has clearly a Japanese flair to it.
I mean, I guess it has about as much theme as, like, chess.
Right.
Part of it is I always think about all of the cards you get in Onitama. You'll only use 5 in any particular game, but all of these cards have ways the pieces can move on them. This is what makes the game much easier to understand than chess, and much easier to predict and think ahead than chess, but also, for me, do help it feel a little bit more thematic as well, because each one of these movement cards has a name, usually an animal name, and the idea is this is like a kata movement. And for me, it also feels like that really does correspond well with the type of movement the card lets you do. It's still not a ton of theme, but it does feel like enough theme for me to be a little squishy on calling it an abstract game.
Okay. I can see that, I guess, even if I don't agree. Next on the list is Deblockle. This is a game we've talked about a bunch of times from Project Genius. This really is a great abstract game. We had to pick 3, so...
Yeah, Deblockle is one of those that feels kind of like Checkers Plus, I think. Yeah. In Deblockle, you are kind of rolling these cubes, I guess, and whichever face is up when you move one of them from one face to another, you then perform that action, and the goal is to have
all of your cubes land with the star up on the star spot. Or
your opponent's star space. Yeah.
And that allows you to remove them from the board.
Yeah.
So definitely some strategy there. It's got some like spatial puzzle awareness kind of stuff.
And that's a game where there's luck, but the only luck is at the very beginning of the game because you roll your cubes like dice before starting and putting them on the board.
Yep.
And our last highly recommended modern abstract is Quoridor. Of all of these games, Quoridor is the game that we have known the longest. I don't know if it's the oldest one on here, but it's the one we've known the longest because your sister gave us a copy long before we started the Family Gamers podcast.
I think it was right around the time.
A little bit before we started the Family Gamers podcast.
Yeah, because she had to program the game in
some programming class.
Yep.
Yeah. Quoridor has a abstract type theme feel that feels very familiar, but I've never seen another game that's quite like this. It is both a pathfinding game, so kind of like navigating a maze, while also being a block your opponent game. And it's a race on top of all of that.
You are placing these domino-like pieces to essentially block your opponent on a grid. And your opponent is trying to move around them and get their pieces to your side and also block you while you are trying to move your pieces to their side.
Yeah. Quoridor is one of those. The regular one definitely does not have any theme at all, but it is now available in a Pac-Man theme, which feels pretty fitting, honestly, for the style of game.
It really does. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing abstract games out there. There's a lot of amazing themed games out there, but this week we really wanted to focus on some modern classics in Drop It, Azul, Shobu, and, a few extras.
Just a couple.
That brings us to our Backtalk question. We won't take it from our kids, but we would love to take it from you. This week, it's going to be super self-serving. Is there a Learn to Grow series that you would like us to talk about? What kinds of games would you like to grow through, or would you like some insight into help other people grow through, or anything along those lines? Or maybe you're just curious what we'd come up with for a certain type of game.
Yeah. We've never done one for a theme, really, until we started talking about abstract games, but we'd be open to doing that, too.
Yeah, basically anything. Yeah. So, very self-serving, I admit, but what kinds of Room to Grow themes would you like us to cover?
So, where can they tell us that, Andrew?
There's lots of places. I'm so glad you asked, Anitra. The best two places are the ones that we often read our questions from, which are the Family Gamers Facebook community. You can go to thefamilygamers.com/community, or just go to Facebook and search for the Family Gamers community. You'll see our logo. You can join. We'll say hello to you on the podcast. It's just a wonderful place. You can head over there, learn a little bit about what other people are playing with their kids or the kids in their lives. Or you can head over to Discord. You can join the family tabletop community there. There's a bunch of other family-focused content creators sharing their stuff in that community. It's really just a nice, smaller but really nice community of folks. You can get an invite to that Discord server by going to thefamilygamers.com/Discord.
We will accept Backtalk in places other than that as well. You can find us regularly on Facebook and on X and on Instagram and every once in a while on TikTok at Family Gamers AA.
You can also find our YouTube channel, which is both at Family Gamers AA, or just search for The Family Gamers on YouTube.
And if you want to give us some Backtalk but don't like any of that social media, you can still email us.
We have functional email. Andrew at FamilyGamers.com.
Anitra at thefamilygamers.com. All of this information is in the show notes of every single episode, guys. So if you can't find us, pay attention, please.
Thank you to Peter for commenting on how ridiculously amazing Anitra's show notes are, because we really appreciate it, and she does a great job.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate that.
If you're already listening, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Tell your friends about our podcast. And maybe even leave us a 5-star review at Apple Podcast or wherever it is that you subscribe.
Yes. 5-star reviews are awesome. I mean, any star reviews are appreciated. Words also appreciated. All of those.
We like words.
Things. You can also find us on Amazon Music, on TuneIn, on Spotify. You can ask your smart speaker to play the Family Gamers podcast, which I do every once in a while just because it's weird and funny to hear my voice coming out of our HomePod Mini, but whatever. Oh, Anitra.
Yes.
We teased on last week's show that we were going to make an announcement.
Did we?
I mean, yeah.
I have a short memory.
Maybe I cut it out in editing, but now I've said it out loud, so I'm going to do that, okay?
Okay.
All right. So we have been doing a lot of introspection at the Family Gamers, coming up on episode 400. And I'm just going to throw it out there. We actually discussed it being the end of the podcast.
We did.
Yeah. And it was a pretty heartfelt conversation, I would say.
Yeah. And we decided that we like doing the podcast too much.
Yeah. So we're not going to stop. Don't worry. So those of you whose heart stopped beating in your chest, I apologize. We're still going to do the podcast. What is going to change, though, is we're actually going to stop, at least for now, doing snap reviews and snap review videos that go up on YouTube.
Yeah. We may also pull back a little bit on written reviews. That remains to be seen.
Yeah. We have a stable of commitments, which is going to last us probably through most of this year anyway.
Yeah.
So we are still going to be doing snap review videos until we run out of
games to snap review.
To things to snap review.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be sticking to the one game a week on Mondays, but we are still planning on doing the bi-weekly podcast. We're just trying to make things sustainable. We have 2 teenagers and 1 kid who's 50, even though he's actually 10. And so it's just a handful. It's just a lot, right? We need to make sure that everything fits into life. And, we like being as transparent as we can with our listeners. So kind of sharing where we're at. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. We will be back in 2 weeks with episode 400.
Which we've been planning for a while, which is kind of cool. So we're going to announce the winners of the giveaway. If anybody wants to write in about episode 400, we will share your Backtalk, custom Backtalk or whatever. We'll share all that stuff on the show. If you want to get your name out there for whatever reason, we'd be happy to do that. Very, very excited for the show coming in 2 weeks. But before we even get there, I do want to remind everybody that the Family Gamers is sponsored by First Move Financial. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygαμers to learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points like a dragon with their horde.
I think that's going to be it for us this week. So until next time, everybody, play games with your kids.